Hello my gorgeous loves out there and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to talk about I think 10 palettes that I almost purchased that came out this year, and for some reason or another I didn't end up picking them up, and also show you some alternatives that I feel like were just really similar to those palettes. But before we get into this video, if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Bri and I'm just a crazy lover of all things beauty, and I like to post a lot of fun, colorful makeup content. I like to do a lot on indie makeup, so if that is what you're into, then please hit that subscribe button and join this little family. But with that being said, let's get into this video. Alrighty my loves, I feel like it's been some time since I've done a palettes I almost bought kind of video. This time I'm doing something a little different, and I'm going to include things that I found in my collection that was really similar to those palettes and helped me consider not buying them. So now before I get into all the palettes, if you're curious about this eye look, which I am so happy with, I filmed this using the new Resurgence palette from Huda Beauty. That video is probably going to be up before this one, so I'll link it below. I'll put it up in the corner if you want to see how I did this makeup look, but of course I also link the makeup I'm wearing in the description always. So just wanted to let you know that. So now let's get into the palettes that I almost purchased. So the first one, this is the, I think it's either Yucca or Yucca palette. I'm not totally sure what the correct pronunciation is for this one, but this one's from Natasha Denona, and at first, I was like, I have to have this. This is a grungy dream. All these yellow, murky browns with the greens and the golds. And I was like, this is absolutely scrumptious. But then I stopped and I was like, I know I have so many palettes that are similar to this one that I don't need this. And I think that's why I back out in the end, because do I really need to spend that like $69 when I have a lot of things that are similar that are in amazing formulas. So the Beaute Tropical Vibes, a grungy palette with a lot of murky browns, yellow tones in it. I mean, I feel like this has a lot of similarities to the palette from Natasha Denona, as well as the Stone and Rock palette from Oden's Eye, which I think a lot of people were comparing this one when they did a review on it. I didn't initially think about that until I was like, you know what? It does have a lot of similarities. Now, I don't think this has as much yellow tones in here, but overall, the essence of the palette does definitely look similar to this one, as well as like the two Natasha Denona palettes that I already have that I should use more. I mean, I use this one a lot, but this is the Metropolis palette. It has a lot of those yellow tones. This one has a lot more shades in here. The golds, you know, like the greens that I feel like I have a good amount that are similar to the shades, as well as the Natasha Denona gold palette, which is one I feel like I haven't used in a while, but yet again, we got these kind of yellow toned browns as well as some greens and these really beautiful gold shades. So I was like, I have this. And I'm sure there's a lot of other palettes that I'm not mentioning today that have these kind of color stories. Since I love grungy tones, I tend to buy a lot of palettes that look like this one. So I passed up on it. Now, that's not saying if I'll ever end up purchasing it. Maybe one day if it's on like a super, super steep deal, I could see myself maybe getting it, but for now, I have passed on that. Now going on to another Natasha Denona palette that I came close to buying as well. I put it in the cart, had every intention to get it, do a whole review on it, and then I was like, no, this is really, really redundant. So it is the Xenon palette, which I've watched a lot of reviews and they all said the same thing. This has way too many redundant shades. Everything is like tons of grays, some black, and everything just leans very gray. And I was thinking, you know what? Does this palette really need to be this big? Would have been better off just sticking to like the mini one that they have. And then I was like, I already have a mini version of this, which is the Kaleidos palette right here. Honestly, I can't remember what this one is. It Black Jasmine. This is really all you need when it comes to like gray tones and a black. Like, do you really need like 5 shades of gray, 5 shades of gray metallics? You really don't. I mean, these are like the main colors that I would go to if I wanted to create a gray smoky look. And this is, to me, all you need, besides maybe one lighter metallic to use as an inner corner highlight. So honestly, that whole palette could have been condensed into like 4 shades. I also feel like this one right here, the Resurgence palette from Unearthly Cosmetics, this is a collab with Heather Austin. Now at first you're like, no, this does not have any similarities. But if I covered like these bright shades on the bottom and that red, like if I did this, right? Is that not similar to the palette? It has grays, it has black, it has even like this tone right here that looks like one of the shades, the mattes might be like a purple cool tone grayish shade, and then even like a pink. Like that to me has a lot of similarities, and this too is a perfect amount of shades for a grayscale palette as well. So I mean, there's a lot of other palettes that I have a lot of grays and smoky shades in them as well, like some of my Blend Bunny palettes, and even the one from Coloupop. I actually decluttered that one, but that would be another good option that's super affordable. The next palette I'm going to go into is one that I've also considered many times because this is a cool tone, smoky, more muted nudie palette, and it's the one from Huda Beauty, the Pretty Grunge palette. I mean, look at all those rich tones, the cool tones, a little bit of mauviness. I think there's a little bit of warm neutrals in here, but overall it's more cool tone. It's smoky, at least from the pictures and from the reviews that I've seen. And I was like, ooh, this is cute. And I really do like Huda Beauty's formula, but then I had to stop and slow myself down and be like, whoa, these are the kind of nudie shades you gravitate towards. I'm pretty sure you already have a bunch of colors already like this. Like I was literally talking to myself like that. So I went through my collection, and of course I do, but I have a lot of stuff here. So like the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Dollhouse palette, which has all these muted nudie shades in here. This one obviously has more options, and it's not exactly the same as the Huda Beauty one, but there's a lot of tones that I feel are similar to the tones in that one. Like these deeper mattes here, there's mid-tone, some of these lighter like pinky shades, and even some of the metallics in here. I feel like I could create some similar looks with this one, like the Huda one, and this one has really good quality, so many options. I definitely prefer this one because, you know, there's more variety and different things you can do. Then I thought about the Nearly Natural palette from Glaminatrix that has some cool tone, more nudie mattes in here. Some of the sparkly shades like this one right here. Some of those mauve shades. These two I feel like are similar to some of the shades in the Huda one, and the formula is chef's kiss, like so good from Glaminatrix, and I feel like this formula is better than the Huda Beauty formula. Now going on to this other one that came out from Ace Beauty. And I was like, ooh, this is very pretty. It's the Mystic Romance palette. And I almost added this because overall Ace Beauty has a really good formula. And I think they have relatively affordable palettes, or a lot of times they'll end up having sales. And I was like, you know what, maybe I should get this on the Black Friday deals because it is really pretty. I like a good berry tone palette. And yet again, I was like, I know I have this. I know I have a lot of palettes that are like in this exact color scheme. And when I went through my collection, I was able to find a lot that could compare to this one. Like the palette from Lunar Beauty, the Moonspell palette, which has definitely a lot more options, but it has some of those warm tone mattes in here, the reds, the pinks, and stuff. I think maybe some of the metallics are different, but overall on the mattes, I feel like I could get a lot of similarity. Sorry, the glare on here is really horrible, but this one has a lot of options, and I really do like this palette. I know not everybody loved the formula in here, but I thought it was pretty good. Even this one right here, the Vivid Rose palette from Give Me Glow, has a lot of similar shades to that one, like some of these purple tones, some of the pinks, and even like this bright pink pop here. There's like a pink pop in there. I also have the Berries palette, which is a super more affordable alternative to that one that has a lot of those berry shades. It's very monochromatic like that one as well. I think the only things that none of these palettes really have are those like silvery looking metallics, but I mean, I think you could create a lot of similar looks, as well as this one, the Surrender palette from Unearthly Cosmetics too has that like berry, purpley, maroony, monochromatic color scheme, just like that one. So I was like, I need to stop. I was like, girl, slow down. You don't need another berry palette in your life. You have a lot. I did a whole video on like berry red palettes, so I know I have enough, but it does look really pretty. Then I also looked at this one too, the one from Glaminatrix, the Rich Romantic one. I go back and forth on this one a lot. I've added this into my cart many times already, and I just recently did it, and I was like, you know what, I should just get it. It's in stock now, and I mean, I feel like I'm gonna regret it if I end up not being able to get my hands on it and get sold out, because I'm just obsessed with Glaminatrix formula, and I think their stuff is just so good. But then this is another one that, like, some of the palettes I already showed you have similarities. Like this one has similarities to that one, as well as like the Vivid Rose one too has, I mean, a lot of similar shades to that. It's so pretty though. And even this one, the Love palette from Natasha Denona, has a lot of similarities. I could have also showed this one for the Ace Beaute one as well, the Mystic Romance. This too, I mean, come on, look at how similar they are. Like, I see it. Oh my god, I think this one is probably the most similar out of all the ones that I just showed you. I think even some of the shades maybe in here might have some similarities to that. So I just was like, you know, stop. I don't need more berry palettes. I would say that's on like that berry monochromatic scheme that has some warm tone nudies shades in there. And then this other palette, which, oh, this color story got me because it's so fall and beautiful. It's the palette from Artitude Cosmetics called the Obsession palette. I went on their website when it launched. I put it in the cart. I was so ready to commit and try out the brand because the color story was like just so perfect, everything I like. And when I went to go purchase it, the shipping and everything, I was like, oh, do I really want to pay that? I think shipping is like $21. I know shipping has gotten really expensive, especially because it's international shipping. I think they're based out of the UK. And it made me slow my roll and think about it. Like, oh, do I want to end up spending $65 for a palette and from a brand that I haven't tried yet, when I know I have this many times over from brands that I already love? Like, this is what I was doing to help stop me from picking up palettes that I know I could replicate. Like the Cosmic Dreamer palette from Ensley. There's a lot of similar shades in here, and this is a beautiful grungy fall dream. Gorgeous shades. I felt like I could find a lot of shades that would match up to that one. And then this palette from Unearthly Cosmetics called Devour. This one too, it has like the berry tones, the green tones, that bright kind of green pop that one has. I was like, you know what? Do I need that? Probably not. Then there's this one right here from Simply Posh Cosmetics. This is the Cozy Cabin palette. This is so cute. It's like a holiday dream. It's so pretty. And I love the monochromatic rose. I'm just a sucker for a palette set up this way. And the tones are really pretty. And I even did go on the site and put in the cart. I also thought about getting the blush palette that came with it. And they did say that they updated the formula, their metallics, because when I tried the Citrus Punch palette, all the metallics created really bad hard pan, and ever since then I haven't touched the palette. And I mean, they said that this one was going to be different, but I was like, I don't know. Do I really want to spend the money and the shipping and all that when I'm sure I have this already in my collection? And it wasn't like the most positive experience with the brand. And I know a lot of other people told me they reached out to the brand and they were only willing to give them like a partial refund. And I don't know, like people weren't necessarily happy with the response of the brand when it came to that palette. So it kind of made me want to scale back and think this through and maybe see how their future releases go. But overall, this had a positive response from people, and the reviews were overall very good about this palette. So I go back and forth on getting this. I'm not sure if it's limited edition. It probably is. So I thought like the Glaminatrix Nocturnal palette had some similarities with like these blue tones in here, these like purple berry tones, this little periwinkle shade. Felt like kind of had a reminiscence to that palette, and maybe even this gold right here, or even this one too. So it's like, oh, I could kind of get some similar looks. This doesn't have everything that palette has, but it has a little bit of similarities. And I even thought about this one from Nomad Cosmetics, the Snow Whistler Lodge one. It has like those blues in here as well, and some of the like the green row right here, and some of these like nudie metallics that one has as well. And even maybe these, I mean, these lean a little bit more red, and the ones in that palette have a little bit more orange to them. Even this one too, the Rick and Morty palette, has some similarities. Now this doesn't have any like warm nudie shades, but it has the real orange. It has like the greens, it has some of the blues, a little bit of like periwinkle goodness. I mean, this one has a lot more color options, and I love the formula in here, and I love the formula in all of these palettes that I showed you. So I was like, you know what, I can scale back, and I'm sure I even have more palettes that might have more similarities with this palette too. I just didn't have enough time to go through my entire collections. And then we're going on to this one, which, ooh, this one I keep thinking about, and maybe I might end up biting the bullet and picking it up. But I've held off for now, and this is the one from Lunar Beauty, the Siren Sunset palette. The design, the packaging really gets me from this brand. Like, they're so ethereal and like magical with their packaging. Absolutely stunning. Like, presentation is on point. And when I saw the swatches and everything, I was like, this is beautiful. I think it has like these shifty metallics in it, and I was like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then I was like, no, I have a lot of like cool tones. I have a lot of blues and purples and muted cool tones as well in my collection. Do I need this? And I have a bunch of stuff that has some similarities. I don't have this exact setup from a palette. Like, I have no real dupes, but like this one from Beaute Cosmetics has some of those tones. Like, if you covered this row right here, I feel like we could match some of these up, like the purple tones in here, the cool tones in here, some of the shimmers. And this one was a really good one, super high quality. I don't know if Beaute Cosmetics sells this one anymore, but I felt like this had a lot of similarities. Also, the Lethal Cosmetics, this is the Nightflower palette. This too. And this one's pretty close. I think this one has the closest amount of colors that match up. Like, you have that blue right here, we have the lighter blue, then we have those purples, some cool tone nudie shades. It even has some of these like lighter ones right here. And I was like, oh my gosh, this one has a lot of similarities. Besides the pinky shades, I don't really see, well, no, like these two look kind of similar to some of the shades in there. I was like, oh my gosh, I have a good amount of stuff. And even this one from Unearthly Cosmetics, if you took out like these greens, I think I could also get similar looks with just these shades. And this one is also really good. And I even have this one right here from Oden's the Giant Wolves palette, which was a collab with Annette's Makeup Corner. Also palette I really adore. If I cover like these greeny shades, this too I feel has a lot of similarities to that palette. So I was like, oh my gosh, I can emulate that palette. Now, I'm not saying the formulas are the same, and I don't know if all of the palettes I just showed you really have like necessarily multi-chromes, besides maybe the Oden's one and maybe the Unearthly one, or even maybe the Lethal one. But I know I have this, and I'm sure I could find a lot of those cool tone nudie shades and lighter shades in other palettes and like mix them together, because I'm so about using multiple palettes to create one look. So I'm on the fence. I don't know. You never know. I might end up picking it up. And then there's these two palettes right here that I almost bought on the launch as well, because the color stories just immediately called to me. These are the Nightmare on Elm Street palettes from Glamlite. And they're doing like 40% on their site-wide right now. And I was like, oh, I could get these for 40% off. But I know me, I'm going to get these palettes. They're going to come in the mail, and then I'm not going to do anything with them because they've already been out for some time. There's tons of reviews. I'm not going to review it. Would I even end up doing a get ready with me? And then I feel like I would just, at the end of the day, not end up even actually playing with these. I might like do one look, swatch them, and I just feel like that's going to be a waste. Because I did that last year during Black Friday. I bought all these palettes from Glamlite, and then I didn't end up using them that much, and I didn't make any videos with them. So I felt like I don't need to get it at this point. And these are very monochromatic color stories that I have many times over. Like the green one, the Earthy palette from Beaute Bar, which is even more affordable than those palettes, and it has even more options, has the greens, you know, and the murky tones. And even their one from Glamlite, the Dirty Martini palette, is pretty much similar. Now this has more of those tealy shades added in, but I mean, they already duped themselves with this one. And then even the red palette, I was like, oh my gosh, that looks almost like the Melt one that they did with Beetlejuice, which I almost picked up and sometimes regret that I didn't. But I have a lot of palettes with reds in it. Like the one from Coloupop, the All That palette, which I don't think they sell anymore. I may be wrong, but I mean, this is very similar to that one. It just doesn't have like those silvery kind of gunmetal metallics, but it has like a lot of those kind of red tones in here, and then the Chalky palette too from Glamlite, which this one's a little bit more smoky, but some of the darker tones that are in this palette are in this one as well, and this one is totally more my speed. I feel like this one's a little bit more versatile, a lot more smoky, which is what I prefer. So then I was like, I could pass on that. I have other palettes that have lots of reds in it too, so I skipped on that. So those were the 10 palettes I wanted to mention that I almost bought but passed up on buying for one reason or another. I've been trying to do this more, so I purchase less. I try to wait for the hype to die down and try to go through my collection to find similarities. And if I still want it after that, then I will pick it up. Now there's a lot of palettes I do buy on initial launch, but these are usually from brands that I super adore and palettes that I know I'm going to review and want to review on my channel. But for other things that I know, do I know if I'm really gonna take the time to do a review? Or I know that if I buy so many of these palettes at once, I'm going to end up not reviewing a good chunk of them, because if a lot comes in the mail at once, I get overwhelmed, then I review the ones that I love the most, and then the other things never end up getting a review or even shared in a video. And I want to stop doing that. So that's why I've been trying to slow my roll and be more conscious of my spending, and just be more aware that I might have a lot of things already like this, and I don't need to buy every pretty palette that I see that totally matches what I like when it comes to eyeshadows. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and it was fun to watch and see some comparisons, because maybe you're struggling and wanting to buy these palettes and maybe haven't taken the time to look through your collection and let the hype die down. So maybe I helped you from not making some purchases, or maybe I convinced you to make some purchases, who knows. But you guys will have to let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Did you buy any of these palettes? Did you pass on any of these palettes as well? Or what palettes did you pass on? I would love to hear from all of y'all. And if you're new here and you enjoy this video, you like a lot of fun colorful makeup content, you like a lot of indie makeup and all that fun stuff, then please hit that subscribe button and join this little family. I would love to have you here. Also, don't forget to check out the description below. I will link all the palettes that I mentioned today, and I'll put the alternatives that I talked about just down below if you want to check those palettes out. I don't know if I'll link all of them, but I'll put them in the description. I'll also link my makeup. Like I said, I did film this with the Resurgence palette from Wicked Widow. I'll link that video. And I will also have my contact on my social media platforms. I'm also on Instagram as Breezy Lifestyle and Breezy_Beauty. So if you want to join my Instagram fam, I would really, really love that. But guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, for being here, being amazing, being so supportive. I just appreciate all of you guys so much, and I just hope all of you are doing well wherever you are in the world, and just sending you guys so much light and love. But until next time, bye guys.